Skoler på Jomfruøerne og skoler i Danmark er en del af et UNESCO-projekt, der handler om trekantshandlen. I 16., 17. og starten af 1800-tallet sejlede man varer fra Europa til Afrika for at købe slaver. De blev sejlet til kolonierne i Amerika, hvor de blev solgt til plantageejerne. Her plantede og høstede slaverne sukker, tobak og bomuld, som blev solgt hjemme i Europa. Det er den trekantshandel, UNESCO-projektet handler om.
We got to go to Denmark as a group at different schools where we got to actually have some tense conversations with students where they didn't want to believe that Denmark was involved in such a thing.
While our students in some cases still battle with the idea of slavery and really what was slavery, why did we have slavery? And students in Denmark, they don't really have that battle. And that was one thing that actually troubled a lot of our students. Here is a country they see is very good at record keeping, very good at talking about the Vikings and their insurrections with Germany and all of these things. But they never talk about their role in the slave market.
Students going to the Haderslev Cathedral School, they would tell us about them having to learn about the Holocaust, having to take trips to Germany. But you would never hear them say anything about the islands. You would never hear them say, oh, we learned about the islands and what Denmark was involved in.
The topic was brought up of if the transatlantic slave trade was important, if they think it was important to discuss. And the views to the Danish students that were in the class, they felt like it's the past. Why do we have to associate ourselves? Like, why is it important? Why do we have to know about what our ancestors have done? I spoke to them and I was like, we're trying to establish ties. So before we could establish those ties, we have to bring up the past, bring up our roots so we can make sure that things like that don't happen again. And actually the students in the class, their views changed.
But we can't exactly hold the current people accountable for what happened in the past. But I feel that if once they acknowledge, the students and the adults in Denmark acknowledge what happened, I think we just need to see them acknowledge what happened, and then we can go from there. We've learned from our mistakes and continue to go.
The only thing that came to my mind when I thought about Danish people or Denmark was slavery, because they enslaved the Virgin Islands. However, when I was able to visit there and experience firsthand, I definitely grew an appreciation for the countries. I've always said I wish that the country did not sell us to the US in 1917, that we were still under Danish rule. However, I understand that that has happened. So I feel the US Virgin Islands and Denmark should definitely have a lot more collaborations.
I would love to see that the people in Denmark would recognize us and what happened through the slavery. I would love to see the people of Denmark and St. Croix share more contact with each other, where we would all remember the past. Because the past is important. I mean, we are going forward, but we still have to pay homage to the past.
This trip and the anger that I'd had for people who ignored our problems and didn't think they were valid, or didn't think that the sadness that we felt about our own history was real, that might have saddened me, but it also powered me to go through with this project. So when people say that slavery was in the past and we have to get over it, we still deal with these repercussions and the consequences of slavery. We're still in service. So although we're kind of in a predicament, because even though Denmark owned us and they freed us, we were sold to the US, and we never get to own ourselves. We never get to be self-reliant or self-sufficient. I think poverty is one of our greatest issues, and some people might say violence, gun violence, drugs, but it all circles back to poverty, you know? Everybody's angry, you know? Everybody's trying some form of escapism, but it all comes back to the conditions that we're subjected to.